Hello everybody. So I just finished this page yesterday, doing all the flowers except for the one near Ivy. So now I'm swapping over to the other page and I'm going to do the flowers on this page. So keeping in mind that I've kept a very consistent color scheme of purples, pinks, and peachy pinks, I'm going to choose those same colors. So this flower, I think I'm going to make it like a nice purpley blue. So to that end, I will choose violet. And this is fairly dull of a pencil, but I can still work with it. There's still color showing, and if you see, I don't know if you can see, but it does come to a point, and that's from usage. So what I do is I use the flat side of the pencil, and eventually that turns the pencil into a point. Oh. And I can use that point as needed to then get into any little nooks and crannies I have. So here we are. I don't know why my live stream just stopped, but it's back. So the light is coming from this direction on this page, which is different than on the other page. So keep that in mind. Excuse me, just taking a drink of water. Alright, so you can see here I'm just giving this petal some dimension. Now how I do that, how I choose where the shadows go. There's a light source here and it's traveling down, so this fold here, right here, let me zoom in a little so that you can see better. So this, there we go. That might be a little bit better. Okay, so this fold here of the flower will be darker, and you can see here I'm just layering in, going over the same spot many times until it achieves the darkness level that I'm looking for. And then going in with little round circular motions, kind of fuzzing that out. So that area is going to be darker because as the leaf, this petal is going over, you see that? It's going over that area here. So this area is going over that area too, you see? It's going over it. So anything under that over, anything under the over, I sound ridiculous, but hey, whatever helps us remember and whatever helps us figure out how to make it work. So anything underneath there will be in the shadow because there's something obstructing the light that's coming towards it, right? So for each thing here now, see, they get less dramatic and they're going to change direction a little bit because it's going that direction. However, we can still work with it, right? So this one here, I'm going to treat the same way. But since there's less of a drama about the amount of wrinkle it has, you see how that's much more mellow of a movement. Here, these are very much more bumpy than this guy, which is more like a small rolling foothill rather than a mountain, right? So we're going to make that a little bit less dramatic, and I'm going to blend in the bottom as well and create some shadow here, because if it's happening at the top, then it would happen at the bottom, right? So we can assume, right? And coloring is full of assumptions we're making. We basically interpret whatever the colorist, whatever the illustrator, right? So the illustrator gives us a picture, and we look at it and we say, this is what I think it's gonna be, right? So we interpret that image. Okay, so I still don't have any people with me here in the live stream, but that's totally okay because I'm gonna post it after the fact. And I did advertise it today on my Instagram, so but I realize it might be a bad time of day. However, it works very well for me because this is lunchtime, so I can take a break and do whatever I want, and I don't feel bad about it because it's lunchtime. So it's lunch with Laura. But if this time frame doesn't work for you, maybe can you guys post down below what time works for you? And you can, I'm in Eastern Standard Time, so I think that's GMT plus 5 or something like that. That's a guess though. I never remember offhand. So if you could just put, anyway, you could put in your local time, just tell me where you're at, like what GMT you are, or you can put in Eastern Standard Time, what time works best for you, what time and day. And then maybe what I can do is take this little vote, and so everybody put their times down on this video. If you're watching this and if you want to catch my live streams, then put your vote down. And I will, in a little while, take a look and see what the votes are and see what I can do for you guys, because I don't know if this time frame works for you. And I would hate to be producing live content and you want to participate, but it's just a bad time. So let's see if we can make it work for everybody. Okay, so here I've got the same principle happening, but now it's starting to happen on the reverse side. Do you see this? So now what I'm going to do is where that dimple, where that divot is, you see there's like a divot there, right? So where that is, that's where our darks are now going to go, because the shape that's going over it would block the light. I know I'm not really describing this too well. I hope that I'm helping, but it's difficult. It's harder than you think to explain how you do things that you've done naturally for a long time. And it's helpful for me actually, because as I explain it to you, I also comprehend it better. So I am learning right along with you, because by vocalizing exactly what I'm doing, I'm also analyzing it, and I find that I've actually developed and improved because I'm analyzing my own problems while I'm doing these exercises with you. Okay, so now we have here a big divot, and it's also kind of in the direct light. So what do we do here, right? This is sort of like one of those big problems. So what I'll do is I'm going to start at the bottom and go very gently because it is in the light. So we just want a hint of that happening. And again, I'm going to do the same here. Start a little darker at the bottom and work your way up. Excuse me, I still have a cold here. and I was just outside for quite a bit. But I didn't want that to stop me from doing a video for you guys, because we gotta keep this thing moving. But yeah, so now I have this little spot. I don't know if you can see it, but it's like a dark area that's right next to the black area of the line work, but there's like a gap, right? So this is one of those moments when I use my doll pencil that has a point. You see, there is a point there. So now I'm going to get in real tight, and let's see if I can zoom in really close. Okay, can you see this? I hope so. Alright, so you see how I use a dull pencil to take precise, and now I've dulled it down a little bit. You see how it's not as sharp as it used to be, but it's still got a pretty good point. So I can go in wherever needed and get in where I need to and fix up any little problem spots. You just have to know where your point is and be able to calculate for that. So it's harder than having a really sharper pencil, because in a sharpened pencil it's easy to see where your point is and you know where you're going to be going. But here with a dull pencil that's been used, sharpened is what I call it, it's been sharpened with usage over time, then what happens is that that point, that area changes, and you have to be able to accommodate for that. But if you can, then what you will do is save so much money on pencils, because I use the same colors a lot and I go through them very often now that I've been using pencils. And in order to save me money, I only sharpen my pencil when it gets down to the wood. So let me show you a pencil that I have that's like that. Let's see. I have several actually. But here we go. So this pencil here, you see how it's at the wood, and I'm still using it. I haven't sharpened it yet because I'll wait until this area gets down to the wood. And this is a pencil that I've actually had problems with the wood breaking. You see that? So I've been sharpening this with an X-Acto knife instead of a sharpener. But even older pencils that I don't have that problem with, this one for example is down to the wood. Do you see that? But I'll still continue to use it because I have all of this over here. Nice big chunk of pencil. So people ask me why I'm so money conscious and money saving, and it's because I grew up with a single mom and she was amazing. She raised us by herself, money and all. But that means that a lot of the times I didn't get replacements very quickly, or I wouldn't get, you know, the money. So I would have to make my own money to buy my own supplies. And so if you make your own money, then you realize as a young child that, you know, you got to use up what you have and you can't waste it. So I learned these practices when I was a very frugal child, and I would, you know, just learn how best to use my blunt pencil in a way that still served the purposes of what I needed, which was a sharp pencil. But you learn how to just lay your pencil flat So I'm going to show you in this very, very dark area how I'm going to lay the foundation with a flat side like this. And now I'm going to cultivate that point. You'll see over time, excuse me, you'll see over time that this will develop a pointy pencil, especially as I rotate the pencil. And I'm going to go in more depth about this. It's just that a bunch of people have been asking me, so I wanted to kind of show you. So see, I just rotated. Most people don't pay attention to me rotating my pencil, but usually there's a reason why. And usually it's because I'm cultivating my tip, my point. Oh, of course, I'm drawing off camera again. Let me zoom out a little so that way you can see the whole flower. Here we go. So now we have a big petal that's, the upturned part might be facing the sun a bit, but there is a bottom turn area, and that's right down here. So all of that can go in shadow. But I try to make a contour sort of feeling with these little outcroppings of texture, if you will. I don't know what to call them, but they're just bits of the petal that are defined by Johanna. So I extend those pen lines with my colored pencil. So as you can see, I'm still using the flat of a pencil and I'm developing my point again. So this is how I maintain a dull pencil and still manage to get in all the little nooks and crannies that I need to. It takes a lot more degree of control and patience. You will mess up sometimes. I have messed up before. Just not being aware of where my point is and making a mistake, and that is fine. I believe that by making mistakes, I learn how to adapt and change and be flexible, which is always good in art. And so I open myself up to the higher risk of mistakes and money saving, as opposed to perfection and sharpened pencils. So really, excuse me, if you're like me and you're money conscious and you want to save your pencils and you don't want to see them go away too quickly, then by all means use this method. It's actually rather fun, I think, and it teaches you a lot about how to maintain your pencil. But if that's not something that appeals to you, you don't have the patience for it, maybe you have so much money that it doesn't even matter and you can continue to buy pencils ad nauseum, in which case I envy you so much. But in that situation, go ahead and ignore what I do and sharpen your pencils. Because in the end, it's all about how comfortable you are with your pencils and how you do your work. I'm just explaining how I use a blunt tip because a lot of people have been asking me about it and I wanted to explain right away. But I will do a whole series on how to maintain a blunt tip, or maybe not a series, but at least a whole video on itself. However, I don't want to elongate this Ivy and the Inky Butterfly series any longer than it really has to be. So that's why I'm just talking while I'm working. But I hope that that at least briefly answers your questions. And if not, then just ask me any follow-up stuff in the comments below and I will get back to you ASAP. And also, just FYI, if you hit that like button, if you're watching it at this point, then you might like it. So can you hit that like button, because it helps people find my videos, and that would be awesome. If we get more people watching, then I'll spend more time making, and the cycle will continue, I think. But I really appreciate all of your very sweet and thoughtful comments, and I've really been enjoying making the videos as well, so I will continue, do not worry. Okay, so you see there's like a more rounded side, so I'm gonna see if I can get that a little bit sharper. So I'm gonna use that side down here. And what's nice is these rounded blunt areas of the pencil are actually excellent for laying down the first layer of color and revealing the imperfections in the paper. And this is something I talked about before when I was working on the background. By laying it flat, it does reveal how the paper is formed and where the bumps are. And if you do it in just the first light layer and then figure out how to work around those with maybe the pointy bit of the blunt pencil, then this really ends up helping you avoid a big area where there's a lot of unnecessary correction. And that does happen to me still sometimes, but as soon as I started doing this technique, it did help me out a lot. Now see, there are barely any problems with this spot on the paper, which is really, really nice. So that means that I can just feel free to now go ahead, and I don't have to work out any issues. So I'm just going to start going in and layering in where I think there needs to be more shadow. And I think at this point, actually, I've been using violet for the entirety of this session so far. So I'm going to swap over to one of my favorite colors, which is PC 930 Magenta. And I'm going to swap over to this color because so far, every other flower of the sweet pea vine has this color in it. So I would like to continue that trend. Make this my unifying color, maybe. So I'm just working in very gentle, soft, circular motions, layering in this new color and blending it. And just by adding that color, just in the darkest areas, it really does add another level of depth, rather. So I'm going to do that also over here. Especially right next to the line art. And also where we first started our flower. Okay. So you can see the difference between the areas that doesn't have this magenta color. It really doesn't feel as rich and deep. And I'm going to layer this flower with another color as well, I think. Okay. I like the way that it is, and I would like the inner part of this flower to be slightly bluer color. So I'm going to pick PC 902 Ultramarine. I love this color. This is a beautiful color. I'm just going to get down into the very darkest areas. And now this is an extremely blunt pencil and almost no point cultivated, and I was using this for a different page, and that's why. I wanted it to be very blunt because I'm trying to catch all of the texture of the paper. So I change my points based on what I'm using them for. But I can use this pencil here on this drawing as well and just know that I can't get a very precise, oopsie, I made a mistake, so I'm going to carry it through. So that's what I mean about being adaptable, being able to think on your feet. Okay, so I love that. So I'm going to carry this also through and do with a very, very light touch, just on the outer edges of this petal, and also on the folded under back side of the petal, to imply that the back side of the petal is a bluer color than the front side, which I've seen before in flowers, so I thought would be a cool thing to add. Now this petal is going to be very light because it's hitting the sunlight. Okay, now that color is going to make a reflected color onto the petal behind it. So in this shadow, I'm going to add some of this color. So you see how I did that. I picked a color for the other side, and then now I'm working that color into the shadows of the sides that would be layered next to it. Because you see that petal is right next to it, right? So it will create another tone, especially in the shadows, which is where I'm at right now. I'm in the shadowy part of the flower. Okay. And just now adding this color in other areas. All right. I think that that's turning out pretty well. So I may end up adding more layers to these flowers later over time. As the rest of the page deepens up, you know, the contrast, the relative contrast of things changes. But for right now, I think that that looks rather good, and I don't want to get it too muddy. So let's look at how this looks in context to the other page. I think that looks great. So now I think I'm gonna make this flower a peachy color like this one, or this one. Yeah, this one will be like a peachy color. Alright, so let's go in and do that. Alright, so I'm gonna start off again with my favorite, one of my favorite colors, this magenta color. And I'm just gonna go in. Now the light is coming from this direction. Let's zoom in a little so that way we can see better what I'm doing. So the light is coming from this direction, right? So this whole underside of the petal will be in shadow. So I'm going to go ahead and lightly lay in a couple of layers, just the base for that petal. Okay, and then now let's do, this will have a cast shadow, and then also a shadow from the leaves here, and then another cast shadow. And let's blend this a little bit. Another shadow, I think this is the interior part. Alright, so all the shadowy areas of this flower now have some color. Now I'm going to come in with our dear friend Miss Carmine Red. That's PC 926. And just richen up and deepen those shadows, especially closest to the liner. Having that cooler color of the magenta underneath really does make it a very extraordinary red when you blend them together. It really does feel like a flower color. Very rich and warm. Okay, looks like my Wi-Fi got disconnected. I am back. Still coloring the same flower. Oh, and of course I'm on me and not the paper. Here we go. Fun things happen live. Okay. Actually, this has been a rather tame session. So I've gotten this flower pretty much down as far as the shadows go. Let's extend this a little bit. And now I think what I'm going to do so you see how I'm using her line work and contouring to guide me on how I'm going to place my shadows. And this is something you can do with any coloring book page, no matter what artist you're using. But it especially works well for Johanna because she goes very detailed and very precise with her line work. Other artists sometimes are not very precise, and so you actually have to really rework it. It all depends on who you're working with. Okay, so that's a really pretty color. I'm going to take this into the peachy zone though with that nice salmon pink. It's a PC 1001 is what we've been using for the other guys. So let's do the same thing here. Just gently, not burnish, but layer another layer. it is starting to work into the paper's tooth, but that's just from the process of layering. I'm trying to still reserve some white because it is pretty, well, it's not too close to the light source. It's fairly close to the light source. I can always add in more darks later if needed, but I find that with flowers especially, keeping them light and bright is always a good thing. And this just richens up that lighter area, brings in a new dimension. Alright, so now just applying that same color to the other lower petals. I think I will deepen these up, but let's see how it looks. There we are. I think that looks rather good. I'm going to deepen it up a little bit. I'm going back to my Carmine Red, that's PC 926. And if you ever notice a petal has a lot of texture to it, so I'm letting the texture of the paper serve as the texture of the petal. Sometimes I burnish the paper if I want something to feel smooth or silky or solid. Like right now I'm burnishing this area because I want that to have the quality that it is really in shadow. But in other areas where it's light, I want that paper texture to come through because petals have a similar texture, so I'm going to use that as my advantage. There you go. Looking fairly good. Let's just do a little bit more shadow details. And zooming out. So there's those two flowers. So I'm already getting the hang of how to do these sweet peas now. I feel very confident. And this is what I mean by my worst flowers will be these guys when I first start. And my best flower will be the last one that I do. So I'm going to reserve this guy for the last. But already I feel like that sweet pea set right here, I'm really happy with. So I'm going to go to, let's see, should I go up or down? I guess I'll go down because the B is the focus of that page, so I'll save these for the end. So I'm going to come down in here and do these little, this set of little flowers, which are slightly different than the other page because the other page has a bell. So that's kind of nice that they're different. Let's see, I'll work on all three at once so that you can see sort of how I treat the different colors differently. I'm going to start off with PC 930 magenta, and I'm going to go through, and now you see I have a mistake here. I went over the line with the green, but you know what? You're never going to even notice it because it's in the shadowy spot. So let me just show you how little mistakes matter when it comes to colored pencil, because you can always layer yourself out of it. Now look at that. Do you even notice that I did it? And the more I layer, this is in the shadows, so I can get away with layering it several times. The more I layer, the less you're going to see. So really don't, if you make a mistake, if you go over the lines, ooh, really don't worry about it. We are all human. The nice thing about mistakes and not doing things perfectly is that it really then allows for individuality and art to shine through. So please don't worry. If your page isn't perfect, it's all part of the learning process. So just keep going, don't worry about it. Alright, so we have a base layer of that one. Now, before I even decide what color that's going to be, because I haven't even decided, I just threw that color down, I'm going to go over to this little guy and do the same thing. Because you know what? They all have this color, so I'm going to use it as a base. Okay, so the light, this is a tricky bit. The light is coming from here. So even though you'd think that you would want this to be in the light, it really wouldn't be. Okay. And then quickly, let's get this guy going too. So we're going to, and this one is very quick because it's in the light, so it won't really need a lot of color. Okay, so those three guys, that little grouping, are all set up for color. We have a shadowy definition happening. So I'm going to pick one as a purple color, but I'm going to do it a light purple this time. So I'm going to pick PC 1008 Parma Violet, and I'm going to put it on this guy. I just like him. He's so cute and small. So what I'm doing is I'm just adding additional color to the areas I've already chosen to be in the darkness. And then taking a very, very delicate soft touch and taking that all the way up to the very top where I leave a reserve for white. And then in the shadows, really going in and pressing hard and burnishing in that color, making it feel, because it's such a small little petal, I mean, it's really just like a bud or a shoot. It really does need some, you know, some darker, richer tone to really make it pop because it's so small. So now the next one that I'm going to go to, I think I'll make this one like a red. So I'm gonna pop in some carmine red. This is PC 926. I'm going to just throw that right in here in the darkest area, going right over that line work and into the tip area and along the bottom. Really make that pop. And also the bottom of this thing as a cast shadow. And let's throw in some cast shadows from the leaves as well. And now let's work in some of the lighter areas. Just going over the whole petal on the top. Varying my pencil pressure depending on if I want it darker or not. Now applying the same technique to the bottom one. Going over the whole area. This just richens up the color. It's a very cool red, so it works well in the sunlight spots. Now let's go over to, let's pop in a different color that we haven't used in a while. I am very partial to this color. It is PC 995 Mulberry, and this is one of my older pencils that I absolutely adore, and it's getting shorter. And so I don't know what to do. Luckily there's more in the store. So I'm just going over some of the darker spots where the shadow would be with this mulberry color, giving it even more dimension. And also just like another depth, you know, another layer of depth. The more colors you add, the more depth you add. Now, of course, you can always get muddy, so you have to be careful. There's a very fine balancing act between many layers and muddy. And then it happens pretty quickly, unfortunately, so you just have to sort of be aware of where that threshold is and just toe the line. Oh, artists are always towing lines, aren't we? Okay, so pretty satisfied with how that's starting to happen. Now I'm going to come in and burnish with PC 929 Pink, and this is just the basic pink that comes in the basic set of 24. And I'm just lightly going over the lighter areas, just giving it another layer of color, bringing out the tones that are already there. Okay, that little guy is done. Now I'm going to move over to this one, and I think I'm going to make it like an orangey, peachy, pinky kind of spot. So I'm actually going to, since I said orange, I'm going to pull the orange. This one is fairly sharpened. I don't use this pencil very often. I've been using it on this page though, and the other page, because it makes a nice flower color. So I think that is a nice little pop of color. And now in the shadows, I'm going to use PC 926 Carmine Red, just in the very dark, right against that line there, you see? And then also right below the leaves. And that one, I think I'm going to be a little bit weird and throw in a little bit more variation and do PC 1003 Spanish Orange. And my goal with this page is actually to try and use every single color that I have, but we'll see if I can possibly get that. Alright, even if just a little bit like that guy, there we go. Just a little touch of yellow really changes it up a bit. Alright, so we have those guys done. So I think I've done some pretty nice progress for today. Gotten in a bunch more flowers, so let me zoom out here so you can see. Sorry about that. Alright, so today we did another flower session. I worked all on this page today. We haven't been on this page in a while, so that was nice to change. What I did is I worked on the flowers and on showing you guys the differences and how I work with blunt tips as opposed to sharp points. Alright, so hopefully the next session I can also do live. I'm enjoying these sessions even if nobody comes. And I hope to see you guys again for the next session. Alright, and don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, let me know what you want to see, and I'll make it happen. Bye.